You'll hear me say time and time again, purpose-driven, because this is not a time in your life where you just say, oh, I think I'll just go do that. Somebody else is doing it. I want you to do exactly where your purpose, your passion, and your potential lies. You know, what you were born to do, what you were created to do, the lane that you're going to thrive in. So that's why I always do say that, because I really don't help people just to launch businesses and nonprofits. I want them to launch their true purpose. So this is the journey that we have planned, but I just want to share some stats with you, you know, because everyone is talking about purpose nowadays. That's my thing. You know, that's who God, you know, I found my true purpose. If you heard about, you know, my company or signature programs, My Purpose on Fire, 81% of Americans actually believe, right? Believe there is an ultimate plan and purpose for every person's life. 73%, a little bit less, say it's important to pursue. So here we've got believe and pursue. It's important to pursue a higher purpose and meaning for their life. But look, the percentages are dwindling, and pretty badly. So when it comes on to the number who actually have a clear sense, who actually find out what that is so they can live a more meaningful life, it's only 25%. All right. So my goal is, if you are living outside of that 25%, I definitely want you to get there. And as we go through this evening, you're going to see exactly why. And hopefully it'll bring you to a place of some resolution, or basically, hey, how can I get moving to get closer to this feeling of joy, passion, and fulfillment, and waking up like this every day? All right, so I mentioned before that my name is Jaquel, and of course, first and foremost, you know, I'm God's child. You know, some of you may have heard my Lazarus story, and I'll be sharing it, you know, more and more. But yes, I am God's child. I did pass away when I was younger, and He actually raised me up from the dead. Some of you who may know me, it may be shocking. This is your first time hearing this. So I'm a wife, I'm a mother, of course, daughter, sister, all of those great things. But I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm a business leadership and purpose coach, nonprofit founder, and the executive director of my nonprofit. I'm a published author and speaker. But this evening is not even about me. When I do share later a couple of stories, it's really just to connect it to the points that I am trying to make, and for you to see what walking in your true purpose looks like, and from how I was feeling to where I am now, including the people whom I've worked with. All right, so why are you here? So some of you saw the post and you signed up, and you knew exactly why you were going to be here. There are some of you, your girlfriend or someone tagged you, or, you know, sent you a link and like, hey, you need to be on this in this master class. It's going to be good for you. And you try to find out more details, and they're like, girl, just jump on. So here you are, and you're like, what is this about? So pretty much I said, what the topic is for this evening, but the whole goal is what I followed up with that when I shared that on social media and in emails is, I want to get you unstuck, right? Get you motivated and get moving. So you either need all three of those or one of those, but really everything that I'm going to share kind of embodies these 3 points. So we want to move from this lady over here on the left, who's like, gosh, what do I do next? I know there is more. I've looked into, you know, I've Googled and I've talked to several friends, different people. I've taken like 5 courses. I've gone to tons of workshops and all of that. But here I am sitting here. I can't seem to move forward. I can't seem to figure out how to get going and how to accomplish all that's in my head, bring that to reality. Right? But if you also notice in this picture, she's by herself. All right. So so look at these ladies. They're in community. They seem to be thrilled about the progress that they're making and achieving their goals. All right. So from this to that, and here's another example of that, right? Miles Monroe says the wealthiest place on the planet is the graveyard, right? Harsh, but very true. There lies buried the greatest treasure of untapped potential. I don't want that for any one of you, right? What I want for you, what I want for all of us is this. When I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I would not have a single bit of talent left. And I could say, I used, not some, not a little bit, I used every single thing you gave me to impact people. While I walked on this earth, I laid on the line. You gave me all this talent and the skill, the expertise for all of these things. And I used everything you gave me. I emptied it out. And so now I'm here for the reward. And this was said by Irma Bombeck, and then of course Chadwick Boseman from Black Panther. He had shared this at a graduation he spoke at. But this is the goal for all of us, to just lay it on the line. And it's hard to do, isn't it? Hard to do. So let's look at what some of that tapped potential looks like. Check this out, right? These are some of my clients I've launched with, but look at this. If they hadn't said, hey, I'm just going to step out. I may not think I've got that great of a talent, or, hey, it's really nothing, but I have a passion about it. But step out, and it could be products, it could be services, whether God's called you or you've got that burning desire to launch a business. It's some sort of service. Could be a coaching program or a business with products, or like another client who would launch a staffing company, whatever it is, hospitality consulting, whatever it is, right? Look how the joy of when these show up and people purchase these goods, how it makes them feel. All right. So drop me please in the Q&A. So what are you launching? Is this a business or a nonprofit? And you may have just launched it, or you're getting ready to, or thinking about it. Or, hey, you may have launched it 6 months ago, who knows? But just drop me in the chat for a moment. And for some of you, it could be both, because God's calling you to do both. All right. So let's see what we've got here. All right, let's see. So starting, nonprofit, LLC, or both, and I see business as well. So whether it's a nonprofit or a business, I'll share a little bit about each of those this evening, right, as I talk through, because what may happen, some of you may feel that, I'm not sure yet, is what I have a business, or is it a nonprofit? Or how can I make both work? Now, the good news is you've come to the right place, because I actually have both. And so what I'm sharing with you this evening is basically from experience. All right, so what is the objective of us being here this evening after all I've shared? I want to inspire and motivate you to get moving, right? You all see how fast January went, right? Went so fast. And next thing you know, listen, I'm not ashamed to say this. I just took my Christmas tree down this past weekend, and I'm thinking by the time I go to bed and wake up, it'll be time to put it back up. That's how fast this year is going to go. I don't know. Is anybody with me? Did anybody just take down their Christmas tree? Some of you are amazing. You did it on January 1st, but hey, I love my Christmas tree. I'm a Hallmark girl too. But enough of that. But to inspire and motivate also means to take action, right? So I want to make sure that this evening, I'm going to share a process with you. So if you're thinking, I can't be inspired, I can't be motivated because I don't know the full process, that's what I'm going to share with you. I'm going to go step by step as to laying this thing out so you could start gaining some sort of clarity, right, on what you need to move forward on and how, and to establish, launch, grow this purpose-driven business or nonprofit. All right, so still have ornaments to put away. All right, awesome. So Rhonda says, large given vision from God, know what I do will require a team. Start a team or foundation for 20 people. So, he's given us big things to do. And the first thing we want to do is wrap our mind around it and just know that it is possible. All right. So the very first thing I want to share this evening is we've got to establish the real end goal. And what is this real end goal? I'm going to break it down 2 ways, right? First and foremost, if we look at Matthew 25, where, it's a story of the talents and really what the desire is for us and what God says, well done. Well done. That's what we want to hear. And well done from the one who matters. It's one thing when our friends say it, but listen, when God can say, hey, well done, good and faithful servant, that's the Lord of everything. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you rule over many things, right? And how about entering to everything else he has for you? So whatever you start with, he multiplies. Whatever you're faithful to. So really, what does this look like, right? In other words, this is about us igniting and maximizing this true passion, this purpose, this potential, unlimited potential. Take the ceiling off, take God out of a box, realizing we want to experience, we want to be, and we want to experience everything that we're created to be, all that we're created to be. Because why do we want to do this? Happiness here is fleeting. So we've got to get to a point where we can live a deep, joyful life. No one steals our joy, right? and you wake up every day, even if today was a horrific day, you're still looking forward to tomorrow because you do have deep joy. So it's for us to just wake up and live a joyful and fulfilling life, even if it's hard work. But at the end of the day, you're like, man, that was good. Fulfilling life. I'm talking about freedom, fun, and flexibility. And just a trifecta that goes with that. My mind is good. My body is good. I have the time to take care of these things, these, parts of me, my body and my spirit is good because you're living in this space, in this purpose-driven lane. All right. And so with that, it makes you want to be the absolute best that you can be with that trifecta. All right. So that's the first thing, is defining what is the real end goal, and for some people may say, my end goal is I got to get out of this job. So let me just go start my business that I've wanted to. Let's erase that and let's define, go all the way to the end. What is a real end goal? Because when you find that out, that is going to keep you going and sustain you. You're not going to abandon the mission, whether you decided to start a business or a nonprofit. All right. So, but to get going, hey, you're going to have to slay Goliath. All right. There is a monster, a giant that's standing in your way. And that's why we're not all fully where we need to be, because something is blocking us from it. So really, what does that look like, And it's not like one day you opened your door and there is this Christmas tree of things that stood there. Looking red like Christmas and may look pretty in disguise, but really over time, these things have set in. The Goliath that we face is, fear. That's one of the biggest ones. Fear, doubt, overwhelm, lack of time, and we basically subscribe to this Christmas tree of things that have been placed on our doorstep, and we pick it up and we take it inside of our house and we have it by the fireplace. And so we subscribe to these things one after the other till it builds up a mountain in our lives. And now we can't seem to move forward, right? And so the goal is right now, we have to take it one by one and debunk each of those. So if we want to move forward, we've got to address the giants in our lives and acknowledge that they're there. Pick whichever one it is, and you got to have a plan to tackle it. And so we can't tackle it all tonight, but there are a few things I want to share with you, basically backing up who we are called and meant to be with the word, but also too, let's, when you look at some of these, or some of you may say, hey, my list is double that. Some of you have overcome some of this already, which is amazing. But the way to do that is to believe what was spoken over your life in the word. And you've got to get around some people who have gotten past this and they're walking in that lane that they were born to be in, and they're growing and they're thriving. Look at your circle, right? If you're all talking about these things, okay, you're going to have to level that up if you want to get to the other side. And then maybe you can come back and help your friends and these people who are still stuck in that place of subscribing to these things day after day, year after year, year after year. All right. So we've got to slay Goliath. And here are some things that I say. It's you got to believe you were born to do great things, because, hey, before you were in your mother's womb, right, God had a plan for you, right? And that's why if you ever want to know what he's called you to do and who you're going to become, just look at who you were as a child before society said, oh, no, I think you should just go, you could be a nurse or a doctor when your passion was in something else, right? Because it becomes the traditional rules of society. But before you were born, there was a plan for your life, and it's meant to be great. So whoever believes this and whoever believes that, hey, I'm here for a purpose, Jesus said, greater works will we do because he's going to his Father. And of course, go ahead and you're going to make disciples of all nations. And what does that look like? It may not look like, hey, you got to show up on the cross on your forehead, but he's called you to start this business. He's called you to start this nonprofit, because there are people who are going to be inspired by what you're doing to change their situation. All right. And sometimes it's with you also providing resources to the least. In the case of a nonprofit, that's going to change their lives. All right. And you've got to believe your worth. Hey, a price was paid for me, a price was paid for you, and it was a dear price. So you best believe. And when the Bible says, I am a chosen generation, we're a royal priesthood and holy nation, we're a peculiar people, believe that. Believe that. So you've got to get in the word. You've got to get around some people, and change the energy of what's around you, right? Let's get off Zoom sometimes. Go grab coffee with somebody else, right? That will kind of get us out of this mindset really fast. All right. So one of the ways when you look at, if you're saying, hey, Jaquel, it's easy to say and to get past, get past these things, believe in the word, getting community. But let's just say something that always helps me when I'm faced with a giant in my life is I look at what's the one thing I can do right now. What's the one thing I can do to move, and I've said this before and you've heard it, God cannot steer a parked car. You will get nowhere in a parked car. So what's the one thing? So my biggest advice is always to start with where you are, start with what you have, and start with who you know, right? Start looking around and to say, hey, how can I get some help with this? What do I have that I can work with? Because sometimes the visions that we get up front, just so big, and it cripples us because you're like, I don't even know how I'm going to get it done. But it's not meant for you to accomplish it all, immediately. Rome was not built in a day, right? And I'm going to just share with you what that kind of looks like. So in reference to my story, I have an LLC that I formed. I walked away from, the hospitality industry. I was a former director of sales and marketing, and I worked in several markets, New Jersey, New York, Bucket, Atlanta. I was actually a member of a Bucket marketing committee to market that city with CVB and Delta Airlines. And so I've had exposure on the highest levels to marketing and branding and sales strategies and all of the things to get business, because I had to lead a team to book, at least $15 million, a year, and then manage this huge marketing budget for all the things, right? So, but now I have my LLC, the J. Tucker Group, and then my Purpose on Fire is my doing business as. It's my signature coaching and online course program. So, I'll share a little bit about that later. And then I also have a nonprofit, the Jamaica Project USA. So I walked away from corporate America. No one told me to do that, but I just did it because, after a while, it's like, there is something else. There's more I should be doing to impact people's lives. God wants me to have a greater reach. And I couldn't really see immediately what that was going to look like. So I launched my nonprofit, went with my husband, my mom and dad. to Jamaica with 3 barrels to serve a community. And of course, that was like nothing. It was peanuts. It was overwhelming because the need was so great. And then when I stepped out on the entrepreneur side, spending only 50% of the time in my business, it was like, oh, who's going to really get my products and service or want it? Because I stepped out there and I was like a no name. And there were these multi-million-dollar companies because I was doing consulting with smaller hotel companies. I was providing task force, had about 20 consultants available to me to send into hotels all over the country, for open sales positions until they fill them. And then I was doing trainings, right? Training sales team on the local level, regional, or going to their corporate conference. And so I started with where I was, which was ground zero. And can I tell you, you build that step by step with the consistency till I got to a point where I was like, okay, no more. I was actually turning away business because I just couldn't manage it, and not with my nonprofit that was growing leaps and bounds. And when I say leaps and bounds, I'm talking about going 2015, coming back from Jamaica and saying, hey, I'm going to set this up because God, I feel it. I feel where you want to take this. I don't know what it's going to look like. And leaving from there, returning in 2019, right? 2019 on the right. At that point, we did in 6 days, we had 42 volunteers from here, 30 more on the ground. Come on, Jesus. We brought a medical team with us that served almost 2,500 people, including the kids, the students in the schools we were working in. We sponsored 40 students for the school year. We brought in 30 pastors and their wives into the hotel and had the conversation about community engagement and working alongside our kids and building our communities and distributing items and resources to them. I mean, God will blow your mind. So start with where you are. On the left, this was our nonprofit. During COVID, for several months, we were getting these 18-wheelers from USDA, organizations and individuals lined up to get food. We were feeding up to 2,000 families per month. Who would have imagined a little girl from Jamaica who could barely afford her dinner some days? My mom would send me to the little community supermarket or shop, you call it supermarket, little shop. And I was trying to get 2 pounds of flour or rice to cook for our large family. I have 8 siblings, my parents, my grandparents, right? And couldn't even afford it. I'd tell the shopkeeper, mom says to just put it on her tab and we'll pay you later. To standing in a parking lot and watching this unfold. And that's what these full circle moments will come. So don't feel like, oh, I'm going to give up this and I'm giving up that. You are walking into a greater sphere of influence. And hey, sacrifices may be there. It's not going to look pretty all the time, but that feeling that you get of fulfillment, even when you can't see the magnitude, it's going to build and build inside of you where you're like, I'm not giving this up. I'm going to take it all the way to well done because, hey, I've caught the purpose bug and this is how my life has meaning. And so, hey, I'm going to go for it, right? So praise God, Rhonda. Praise God for that. So this is where it wants to take us. And so that's what I'm helping people do, leaders and career professionals. Hey, got to get there. And look, it doesn't mean everybody needs to up and quit their job, but there's something that you need to be doing with your life right now. Get it started. You don't have to say, well, I'm going to have to leave. No, you don't. Most of my clients who I've worked with, they're doing this while still working their job. And they're saying, hey, but I got to do it now. I got to be obedient because I feel like the time is now and I've got to just be more fulfilled. There's something more for me. There are people's lives I need to impact. I've got to let this special skill and talent fly. I got to let it go, and give it room. So this is what's happening. And so they get it started because God is faithful to show you when to step away fully. Because you started this good thing. And plus, it's going to allow you to show up differently where you are because you got this other thing going on over here now, right? So you show up better for where you are. And then you also look at where you are and say, hey, what can I learn right now to take back to what I'm building over here. So it starts looking different for you, right? And so that's what it means. Start with where you are, with what you have, with who you know, published author. And then during COVID, I was featured in this coffee table book, 100 Women in the US Impacting Communities. So kind of that's where I landed with that. And now we're through COVID and a new era is starting. So for those of you who are here right now, this is also one of the biggest things holding you back. The right process. Like you're like, yeah, but what do I do first? What is my checklist supposed to look like? So this is what's brings me to number 4. And for those of you, you may have just started a business or you're a little ways into it. So, you know, for those who have not yet, I'm going to ask those of you who have just to just bear with us through this process. And what I want you to do with this process is look at what you have right now and look at it through the lens of what I'm going to say, because the biggest thing is you've got to make sure you've got a solid foundation and you've checked all the boxes and you've built that solid base. You've done everything you need to up to this point and you've done it right, because the goal is to set it up right so you can position yourself to grow and to scale. Now, I can't go in detail about everything because really what I'm telling you right now is it takes me, you know, if I'm doing a 90-day program with a group or a 6-month program, that's how long it takes me. So I'm snipping this right now for you tonight because God placed it on my heart and I like to teach what I know. So there is no qualms about, oh, you know, I can't tell you this stuff. And what if you know? I need you to know. Because I need you to be able to get off here tonight, run what you got going on through the lens of what I'm saying here, and to say, okay, I got that done, but I don't have this. I need to work on it. All right. So here we go. So why do you need to learn the right process? Because, you know, this bundled up, these wires in our head and everything crossed and we don't know, you know, the straight path and where to go. Now we're anxious. We're even doubtful we can get it done. We're not as bold as we need to be because we don't know what to do and where to go. So this is going to hopefully help with that, because when you know, they always say knowledge is power, right? When you know something, doesn't it build more confidence? Right? Everybody, doesn't it build more confidence to say, hey, I may not know how to do all of the things, but at least I know what I need to do. Even if I need to go find somebody to help me, at least I could tell them what I need done, you know, and find an expert in that area. And of course, you can wrap your arms around the process and say, okay, all right. So it reduces the doubt as to your mind's no longer muddled. It reduces the doubt and it looks possible that you can get there because it's a series of checkpoints, right? And it reduces the anxiety because that comes from not knowing what the journey is going to be like, right? So this is what my countryman says, Bob Marley, and I had to throw this quote in here. Life is one big road with lots of signs, okay? Because you're on Google, this friend is telling you that. You did jump on this other coaching program and 20 other free master classes and this free this and that challenge and this. And so now you have all these roads that's supposed to lead to some end result of you implementing and accomplishing all these things. And so it's just a lot going on. So lots of signs everywhere, right? But the goal is don't complicate your mind. Well, he threw in these additives, free from hate, mischief, and jealousy. But look at this. Don't bury your thoughts. Put your vision to reality. Wake up and live, right? So we wake up when we start taking action, even one small thing. It starts igniting something, right? And then the next thing, and then the next thing. All right, so you might be going, well, what is this process? You know, Jaquel, let's stop talking about the process already. What does it look like? Because I know you are all some action takers right now. And so I just want to just hop into that. So again, it's like I love checklists. That's how I worked in the hospitality industry, you know, as a leader, and I set these goals, and you sit down in owners' meetings, and you know, you fly to USA headquarters, and you're like, here's the budget, and here are the numbers, and my team's gonna do it. Well, I had to lay out the big vision, but then I had to take that and break that up What does it look like per quarter, then per month, then actually even per week, then per day? So I had to take that, put it in a series of steps and action plans, and check the list off as I go. Okay, we've done this, we've done this. So more than likely, it will get you to where you're trying to go. All right, so the right step-by-step process, and I'm sharing this because I had to learn this journey. Look, I made the mistakes and missteps for you so that now I know all these things. I've been living it out, but really the right process is you've got to gain clarity. So I will touch on each of these, don't you worry. And you're also going to get the replay for those of you who are here, but you have to gain clarity first, right? About this journey, right? And whether it's a nonprofit or a business, and then you've got to set it up. You got to set it up, make it legal, and then you've got to brand it, and if it's like, oh, my brand, what is that? And you are your brand. You are your brand. So you've got to go through a branding process and work with somebody who's an expert at that and can pull it together beautifully for you. And then you've got to launch out, launch strategies, marketing strategies. And then from there, now you need to grow, get clients, all that good stuff. And then you want to scale. And that's where you're going to start making really huge impact outside of your community, outside of your state, on a national level, hey, maybe global. And so this is kind of really my forte in my area of what I want to see happen. And really for you, what this journey really looks like. Whether you learned a piece over here from somebody or another piece over here, but really, this is the comprehensive journey to get you to igniting and maximizing your purpose, passion, and potential. All right. So let me just break down clarity. And so again, if you're running through this, I promise, if you feel like, oh, you're going really fast, I'm trying to take notes. Also, what you can do is take a snapshot of the screen. That's what I usually do too, but you're also going to get the replay. So you have to gain clarity about this thing. Some of you are very sure about it, right? All of these things. And some of you, it might be muddled. And for some, it's like, have no idea what I even want to launch, but I know it's on my heart to help people. So here's some homework that you can do. And if there are parts of this you haven't answered yet, right? We're not for everybody, right? You were born and created a certain way, and you're going to appeal to a certain group of people. And what determines also who you are called to help or who you appeal to or who's your tribe is what you've gone through, and your personality and your natural skills and talents. Your experiences have shaped you. The jobs that you've had have shaped you and the skills that you've learned. So the way that we find ourselves into confidently wanting to help a group of people is that we were those people. But you know what? We're on the other side of the bridge. We're further along than they are. And now we can actually help them. So who are you for? Who are your people? You got to figure that out and break down who you are, because your people are like you, or they gravitate to you, and where they're located. So for some of you, it's like, what I'm launching my business, or if it's my nonprofit, it's going to be for people just in my state. That's what it's conducive for. Or my greater reach is my community and surrounding communities. For some of you, it's a global reach. So try to decide and figure out, based on what's in your heart and your passion, where you think this could possibly go. Because you got to get your arms around all this from the beginning, because it affects the foundation you're going to set this up on. So don't just think right now of, oh, just my corner of the world. Where could this go? That is the lens through which you're going to set this thing up and operate through, right? Now, the people you want to help, what are they struggling with? Because, what sort of transformation are they looking for? Because more than likely, it's the same thing you've gone through. And that's why you're now an expert. You know how to, make this thing work, or now you're an expert so you can help them take care of what they need to. Why do you want to help them? Why do you? And that's why it's important for you to find your group of people and find what you really need to do and what you're passionate about. Otherwise, that's why when you see people changing 20 jobs, it's because they haven't sat down and figured out, why do I want to take the job besides the money, right? Why do you want to help this group of people? Because your why sustains you. You know, come hell or high water, the roof may be it may be burning down, but you're going to stay the course because you have a plan. You know, you have a reason why you're in there in that season for that moment doing this thing, right? And then you have to decide, right? So how am I going to help these people? I'm going to transform their lives, you know, with products and services. How is it going to improve their quality of life or bring joy to them or bring this desperate solution they need? And is it going to be a nonprofit? So, you know, is it services? Is it products? Business or nonprofit? Let me tell you how quickly you're going to figure this out. When you've identified who you want to help is, okay, here are my services. Can they pay me for it? Because some of these services, just like I know with my nonprofit and who I'm serving, you know, serving those are less fortunate. They can't pay me for what I'm bringing to the table. So that needs to be a nonprofit, right? So business, there's an opportunity for an exchange for some transactions to happen. And it's products or services that people are able to pay you for, right? And for some of you, it's both, okay? It could be kind of the same feel that you have. Yeah, it's a business, but I have a nonprofit component. You actually need to set up both differently. You've got to separate, and especially here in the US, because one's for profit, one's nonprofit. So you want to keep everything clean, right? And then when will you help them? So starting with, when are you starting this thing? You have to set a date to say, hey, I'm coming out of January right now. February is probably going to go fast. You know, if I have a plan in my heart, I need to set a date, because otherwise it just stays a dream till 2024, 2025. And next thing, hey guys, 10 years will go by and you're like, oh, where did the time go? Do it now. Let's do it now, right? So set a date and then figure out how often am I, these products and services, is it ongoing? Is it daily? Is it monthly? What are we doing here, right? So depending on what it is, it will dictate to you, hey, this is as often as people need help, or it's a seasonal thing, or whatever it is, okay? It may be like a huge quarterly thing. That's how it manifests, right? So your when is super important. So when I talk about building something that, you know, you're for a certain group of people and it's purpose driven, I want you to just meet my friend Steve and Missy. They're my friends, but they're my clients. And so they have Misty Pond Resort up on Lake Lanier. And what I want to share about this amazing couple, you know, so they basically got this property. They have their company and 30 employees, and they're like, yeah, we want to live a more fulfilling, joyous life and just impact people in a different way. I feel like there needs to be greater impact. And so they sold that business, and then they bought this, you know, 5-bedroom, 4.2-acre property. Now the owners before, they were actually kind of like party people. And so the cops getting called there, and, you know, it's a private home rental that it was. And so that's what they wanted to continue with. But there is a purpose for everything. How do you tie this into the calling that, hey, I was called to make a deeper impact in people's lives, right? And so what we figured out and what we talked through was, this property is a special place. People are going to come here to seek peace and rest and to be restored. And it's going to be inviting to generations of family and, you know, girlfriends to come, and, you know, retreats and reunions. And it's just going to be a very special place, right? It comes with a tri-tune boat, a huge indoor swimming pool, a deck for grilling, and just fun water sports, all of these things. And so now you take something what seemed just regular enough, and now you've made it purpose driven. And can I tell you, there are days like, do not try to go to this place in the summer. You will not get in. It's just amazing, amazing. And now they're going into a 1.5 years of launching into this. So just think about, you know, whatever it is that you are launching, there is significance to it. And to think about, hey, this could play out differently. I'm not doing this like everybody else because you're not meant to. So you got to go deeper. Don't just look surface level. There's something different about you. And so deliver things in your own special way and the way you've been called to do it. That's what's going to drive significance. And that's what's going to drive impact. All right. So we're gaining clarity there, right? Clarity about figuring out all of those things. That's your checklist. And you may have checked all the boxes on that. If you're not sure of some areas, and sometimes with business or nonprofits, is as you go along, it gets more refined. You may have thought, hey, I want to serve this group of people and do this, but then it just gets more refined based on whose life you're bringing more impact to, who's experiencing or who's enjoying your service and product the most. Find more of those people, right? It's a special group of people. All right. So this next one is very important because, a lot of times when I work with my clients, whether one-on-one or group, the established part gets tricky because sometimes if it's muddled, what we're supposed to be doing, or we don't know all the details, we go first to the shiny new objects like, hey, I want to launch this purpose and passion and this talent. So what I do know is, let me do my logo. That's fun. In fact, I'm going to get that guy to do my website because that's fun. I'm going to get my pictures and I'm going to put all my fluffy stuff on there. It's going to be great. And I can't wait to show people. And so, if I were to tell you how many times I've spoken with someone in a strategy session to see where they're at, and they're already working on a logo, but there are parts of this, the legalities that have not been done. And so you want to be legit, because if this business or this nonprofit is going somewhere, it's got to be set up right. And so don't discount anything or feel like I'm going to rush the process on anything because, hey, a rose by any other name is still a rose. That does not apply to business. Because your name, you need to spend time on that. Your name is going to show where you're going and what you're all about. So spend time on that and let it reflect the true essence of your business. And you need to search this with your state and get it registered. Don't put it on the logo yet. No. We're not there yet. And, don't get your EIN yet either, because then you might go to your state and it's like, oh, this name is taken, whatever the case is. So it's a process, it's in order. And you may be another part of the world. What you need to do is just search for your local business municipalities. And a lot of times, mostly everywhere, you can go online and learn the process. But there is a process and it's important to follow it. For those who, usually for a nonprofit, you don't need a local tax certificate because you're not operating it as a business. You're incorporating it because you're going to have a board. You're going to have all of these bylaws, so on and so forth. Normally, when I go through my process, I provide everything, like all the templates, all of that good stuff. So you want to secure a local tax certificate if you're practicing business in your local county, and have that information readily available, especially if you're a home business. You could just, keep it somewhere safe in your home or put it up. If you go to your nail salon, they have theirs up. Same thing. So legit business, and you take that information and you go set up a bank account. Keep it separate from your personal, and you're setting up your company as an LLC, just to remove liability from you personally. And that's why you want to keep everything separate. During this process, you need to create a business plan and a startup budget. I know it's like, yeah, but I'm just starting out. I'm little, I don't have much going on yet. Do it right. This business plan is like your business Bible. You're going to lay out the big vision. And so when I work through this process with my clients, I give them, the business plan template, but I teach from A to Z, the mission, the vision, the bio, what that needs to look like. Do you have, if it's a nonprofit, is there a board? Okay, we're going to define everyone's title and all of that good stuff. Who are you serving? What are your services looking like? How often? All of these things. Who's your ideal client? Breaking all of that down, and so really, normally when I walk through the process of a business plan, someone can take that and give to somebody and say, hey, build my website. Whatever you need is in here. So it makes the process simple and it really breaks it down, right? So create your business plan and start a budget. And then there are business systems and templates you need to have in place, so you may need a CRM right away where you're going to store your client's information. So depending on where you start, or for some of you, an Excel spreadsheet might be just great for right now, but at least you're going to know, the tools and the systems that you are going to grow in, know them up front so that when you're ready for them, they are there, right? And they are great websites you can go to where there are templates available for business owners, even contracts that you need to have written. Templatelab.com is a great one that I use and I refer my clients to. All kinds of templates that you could, take and customize. So it's just being able to walk through the process, what it needs to look like, your standard of operations, and you're just building out the culture of who you are, because remember, before you know it, you might be taking on people. And so you need to have things in place and be ready for them and to share, this is what my company is all about. All right. So I see that in here. That happened to me. My name didn't get approved by the state, but I already secured my EIN with what I thought I was going to use. So you see what can happen. So, follow the steps, and then that way you don't have to be backtracking. That's the firm foundation that we talk about, and the peace of mind and minimizing the worry. All right. So moving right along. So now you set this thing up, right? But now we need to brand it. So branding is not like, oh, let me just do my website and a business card and all of that. There's things you need to do before, even colors have meaning, break that down. So colors, logo, your tagline, like, hey, Nike, just do it. What does that tell you, right? Just do it. Coca-Cola, open happiness. A lot of these companies, who have taglines that you follow, that you watch, just think about what you get from their tagline, right? It's just their mini promise to you, right? And it explains a little bit about your company. Photos make the difference, people. Photos, stock photos, personal photos. Please, if you are launching a business, please invest in a photographer. If you're having a website, invest in a photographer for clean, clear shots. Please do not use your cell phone, right? Your cell phone is great for social media and all of these things. But if you are benchmarking yourself right now, you're not benchmarking yourself against you as a startup, a new company. You're going to benchmark yourself against some people who are doing it well already, that you say, gosh, that's my goal. Those are goals I desire to, where I desire to be, even if I'm not doing exactly what they're doing. And if you don't have people who are doing close to what you're doing at a super high level, go find them and benchmark yourself against them and get as close to that out the gate as possible, because visuals are everything. People are going to pay you for what they perceive. So if you have a service or product and you say, oh, I'm just going to, take some little photos and put it on a brochure, but this is my price point, people pay for the value of what they see. Right? And so you've got to step out there as your best. We did it with corporate America, right? Some of us had the uniforms. You got to have the bag, the shoes, the this, the that. And our LinkedIn profile was great. We had a professional shot. Okay, this is your baby. This is your dream. You were building somebody else's, and probably still is. Own this baby and say, hey, I'm not going to turn this down for nobody. They're operating up here. I'm going to figure out frugal ways to get there. And I got to look like my stuff got to look super good. Own it. Be proud of it. Step out in it and get it done. So your website, I kind of walk through what you need to do for that. But, your homepage, your about page, you don't need anything super crazy. For some people, it's like a one-page site. When you click to about, it takes you like to the middle and contact at the bottom. So you don't have to get too crazy about, hey, I need to build a 5-page site out right now. So depending on what it is, but find somebody who can, and look at the work that they've done and to see, hey, I'm going to trust this person to build something out with me, for me. You've got to build out your social media platform. So which ones are relevant? Where are your people hanging out? That's where you're going to go and engage the most. And then, of course, back to the business cards and so forth, collateral, brochures, whatever it is, signs, if you're going to do vending places and all of that. And then, of course, your branding tools and resources. So learning all the branding things and being on social media, but there are tools and resources, the apps that you need, to make your photos look great, the fancy fonts to make your text look cute. So that's a little tip for any of you who follow me on social media. And you might see like my text is changing and the fonts. And I'm like, how do you get to do that? Because I keep copying mine in Word and pasting it and it's not working. All right, go to your app store and type in fancy fonts. There are a couple of apps that will show up. Pick the one you prefer that you want to work with, and it will guide you. You can see little examples of how to do it. But branding tools and resources. And believe me, when I walk this journey out with someone, I show everything you see me do, this presentation that I created, everything that I do, I'm like, here is what I use. And the goal is start with something, but then also find your go-to tools yourself, something else that might be great, but to get you started. So I kind of have a huge toolkit go-to for everything. All right. And I've had to learn these over time. And so I just, I'm happy I share them. All right. So logos. So here are some logos that, my clients have, that I've worked with. So many. I just picked a few to kind of share with you the colors and what they mean to people and just embodying everything, their taglines, whatever. So just kind of wanted to share that with you. And when I talk about photos, so that's another thing when I talk through branding. On the left is Philip. This is Latina does makeup, Philip. And so sometimes when I do my retreats or when I advise people, I talk through, hey, you got to get professional photos, but the quality photos. We don't have to be dressed up all the time or whatever, but make sure our photos are crisp, clear, even if it's on our cell phones. But we do need proper branding photos, especially for our website. So make the investment and, sometimes do it off season. Right now, PWG Lens is offering, I think, $100 for headshots. And normally Philip is super expensive. So, catch them off season too. Like, oh, let me get some photos now. So it makes a difference, right? So branding aside, we're going to hop on to launch. So now you've branded and now you're ready to get out there, right? You've got to have launch strategies in place. Like, so when am I going to do this? How am I going to share with people? Am I going to do posts? Am I going to have a live event and invite people? And remember what I said, start with who family, friends, people at your church, social media, whatever it is. But you've got to set up specific launch strategies and dates when you're going to do things, right? And then engage people in a launch team. Like, hey, I'm launching my business. And even if it's a book launch, get a launch team and say, hey, I'm launching this. Can you help me share the word, on your social media or with your group of people, all of that. So you got to have strategies in place and you've got to have marketing strategies, long-term goals for your business. As you launch out and you start growing, what are some things that you're going to consistently need to do? Do you need to find trade shows to be at? Do you need to find places to speak at? And hey, share what you do, all of these collaborations, different things. So many of them, and honestly, in the essence of time, I'm not able to go through all of them right now, but content creation, right? You don't just hop on and like, oh, what did I say today? Or remember now, you're a professional in your business, you've got a branding to uphold, and you need to have something to say. You're stepping out there. It's to educate, motivate, inspire, lead people to a call to action, to do something with you, the products and services that you're offering. So you got to create this content and then you got to plan it out and schedule it, right? And you got to work on building your audience. So start with who you know, right? When you get into that growth phase, that's where you really hone in on audience building. All right. So when we look at that quickly, the grow and scale, right? So normally the process I talked to you about before this, I'm going through that with my clients, like for the first 90 days, right? They're getting that done, or a little bit over 90 days, but this kind of builds on that, right? This growing scale, growing your audience and your following on your platforms, because the goal is you got to pull these people off there and get them on your email list. So I work through strategies on how to grow that. And, you know, you launched out with your brand, but now you're like, keep turning it up a notch. Remember, you got goals. So always set the bar higher. Okay, I did this. How can I improve on it? Set it higher, set it higher. All right. So, and then building this funnel, because the funnel is, how do you get leads? And then you're going to turn them into prospects, and then into customers, and then, you know, potential customers who will pay you for your service. You know, and then for those of you who are a nonprofit, right? When you set this up, of course, you know, the extra step for you is you've got to get your 501c3 status from the IRS, right? So setting it up with your state doesn't mean you are tax exempt. So you got to get, go to irs.gov and get your tax exempt status there, right? But for those of you who are looking at a nonprofit, this is also where partnerships and collaborations come in. A key thing my mother-in-law told me is like, don't just, you know, focus on grants and the money. You're going to make a list of everything that you need to make this thing work, to be able to serve people well. What are the goods that you need? What are the resources? What's the manpower? And then you look for those. Who has those? Who has those things? Not just the money, because sometimes we don't always get the money. Believe me, I know it. All right. So, and then as you grow, there are non-essentials that we have to get off our list, because now we're the visionaries and we're sometimes the main talent. And so what are some of these things that now somebody else needs to do it? And whether you're going to get an intern or a VA, whatever, you're going to start looking at building out your support team, right? Systems and automating things as much as possible. Make it efficient, right? So if I would be on the phone earlier on when I launched my business, and I'm like, oh, somebody wants to meet with me, and I'm like, what time are you available? What time are you available? And all right, hold on, let me put in my calendar. Well, automation is, now you have Calendly or Acuity, you set up your scheduling there, your availability, and you say to someone, here's the link. You know, I have a bunch of times in there, pick which one works for you. They book it, and then they get a Zoom link. It puts it on the calendar. So you got to start automating all the little things that you can, and then prepare yourself to diversify. You may start off with this big vision and start it with one thing. You know, say you have a coaching program and you launch this one course, but you have an idea for other things. Later on, diversification comes in, and that's where growth and scaling also comes, right? And then you've got to expand your presence. You now are going to have to, hey, I need media on what I'm doing, you know, podcasts, TV, magazines, radio, whatever it is. So you got to get in front of more people. So this is kind of, you know, and like I said, I'm just touching on these things so you can see what you need to be thinking about. You know, unfortunately, time does not permit me to share how I help my clients do all of these things, you know, but this is the journey that I'm walking, that I have walked, and that's how I can share this with you, right? So this is Patrice. And Patrice, you know, started with the idea. She has two things going on, but I am just so thrilled because she actually opened last year her brick and mortar practice, Unique Speech Techniques, and she's in Texas. But just an amazing, I am just so thrilled from her growing from that to then being able to open an office to now she's actually doing speaking, and she's definitely afraid of speaking, but you know, your gift will make room for you in other areas. She didn't know she'd be speaking to groups of women and things like that and be asked to show up. And she's able to do that because you start getting bolder and braver, and the more joy you get from touching people's lives makes you want to level it up and do even more, right? All right, so my thing is believe, commit, persevere. Believe you were born for great significance and impact. Believe your worth, commit to the real end goal, and get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Hone in and lean into that. Don't run away from it. You know, grow through the hard things, right? Lean into it, grow through it. Like, man, this, if I could get through this, if I could get this done, and even if you don't know how to do it and you need to outsource it to someone, at least know what needs to be done. But you're going to grow and become better and better. And consistency is key, right? This is what consistency does, perseverance. Hey, if you've all never seen this, this is where I am from, right? This is my community. It's the same way. Our house is one of these tiny ones up on the hill. There is no indoor plumbing. So we'd say no running water. There are some people who still cook on wood fire. But going from that to this, where I'm actually headed back there in another 2 weeks, because we are working on constructing our first rural community resource and development center, library, computer lab, workshop space for entrepreneurship, a community vegetable garden, volunteers in the farmers to family food box program like we had here with the USDA. Just who would have thought? This is what perseverance and consistency does. You never know where this is gonna go. Ladies and gentlemen, you never know where this is gonna go. Just start where you have. Embrace the dream. Embrace the dream. I mean, I am here to cheer you on. I want to see you do it. I want to see you do it. So I know somebody said Claudia has to hop off to another meeting, but you're going to get the replay. But guys, I want you to do it because you never know where this is going to go. And when you even see it leveling up, that's still only the beginning. Okay, so embrace the possibilities of what could be. If nothing else, that should get you started. From that to then this, right? You got to show up and share your story. There are other people who are reaching out to you. I didn't orchestrate any of this myself. Last year in the middle when it was Jamaica's 60th independence, and they reached out and say, hey, we want to honor you as one of 60 Jamaicans internationally, or who's helping, our country and growing communities and doing this work here. Look, I just got my hands to the plow and I'm just doing the work because I enjoy it. I enjoy it. But that happens, Thrive Today, that's the biggest thing for me right now, which I've shared with you all from, my church, our founding pastor, over 20,000 members and, over 4 campuses. This was Thrive Today is a leadership community for women in the marketplace. So check it out, guys. A great article, but I collect all of these magazines and didn't know I would be reached out to say, hey, you're going to be the featured person. And so from that, and then recently Voyage Atlanta reached out. I didn't reach out to them. They reached out and they said, hey, we want to feature the work that you're doing in entrepreneurship and all of these things. And then today, another magazine reached out. So all I'm saying is just keep doing what you're doing. Just put the work in, enjoy what you're doing. Even if it's just for one life, you're going to transform or make somebody's life happier. Just do it. You are the big break a lot of people are waiting for. Just remember that. You're looking for your big break and thinking, how is this going to happen? Just start. Because other people, their catalyst moment depends on you. Their greatness depends on you because you're sent to, maximize what you're doing for their sake. All right. So this is Jeanette and Marvin Davis. I'll share real quick about them because this went from them saying, hey, we're going to launch this marriage ministry business, and then we're going to have a nonprofit arm, to their kids saying, hey, we want to get involved too. And so now it completely changed the vision that they've had because the kids now want to get involved and they want to go serve and they want to do all of these things. So it became a family thing. Once they share it, hey, this is what's on our heart. And it's really, remember, they're doing a marriage and family ministry. It actually brought their family even closer together. Even the little younger generation is saying, hey, mom and dad, let's do this. Sign me up. Where do we go serve? Let's make that a part of your business. And so that's just the amazing thing, how lives can be impacted. So the last thing I'm going to say to you is, number 5 is, get the support you need. Left on our own, that's why we kind of stay stuck sometimes, right? We need the support. We all need guidance. We need accountability, and we need community to